There are many introductions to this game mechanism. From the simplest scissor stone cloth to complex online games, the most important aspects of the game are the gamer and the game rules. The player is the foundation of the game, and the game rules are the key to determining victory, defeat, and ranking. However, the game rules constructed by humans are not perfect, so sometimes different from reality may arise in the game. Chapter 1. Opening your eyes to a different world. You are listening at novelfull.audio. No, I must go to bed early tomorrow. Bai Yi sat up from the bed, covering his severely painful head. If we continue like this, we will die suddenly sooner or later. Normal people don't have a chance to start over. Looking at the poster facing the bedside, Bai Yi, with lingering fear, once again issued a declaration not to stay up late. Actress poster. Looking at this unfamiliar poster that resembled Zhou Huiman 7 times, Bai Yi said strangely, "This is not my room." From childhood to adulthood, his room basically doesn't have anything to stick except for certificates and small red flowers. After graduation and starting work, a minimalist style is even more prominent. Bai Yi looked around, and at this moment he was in a strange room. Apart from the bed and wardrobe, there was only one table in the room. On the table is a rather special laptop, with a thickness comparable to bricks and a large screen that looks very heavy. In Bai Yi's impression, there was no such laptop, but instinctively she told Bai Yi that it was quite expensive. I woke up and went to the bathroom to wash my face. I looked in the mirror and found that my appearance didn't seem to change much. It was still my ordinary face. But I don't know if it's an illusion, it seems like I've become younger, at least my skin has turned a bit whiter. Sitting back at the table, Bai Yi skillfully took out a bag of instant noodles from under the table and soaked them, then began to recall memories about the parallel world. I don't know how much similarity this world has with the world that White Knight is familiar with. But Bai Yi believes that the two worlds cannot be said to be the same, only specious. At least what the technology tree lights up is definitely not in the same direction. The simplest and most prominent point is that the end of World War II was 50 years ago. At the same time, there were no little boys or chubby people in the memory of their predecessors, and Japan directly became the autonomous region of the He ethnic group. I don't know what's missing in this world, but nuclear physics hasn't been discovered early on, and the ultimate weapon for humanity is not a nuclear bomb. Even now, the world has only completed its journey in 5 or 6 years, and this world has only just begun in decades. However, in the fields of computer software and hardware, as well as energy, new energy and energy storage, a series of technological explosions have occurred in this world. The speed of computer technology development is simply unbelievable and constantly changing. Various supercomputers and personal terminals iterate rapidly. The high-energy battery that charges for 5 minutes and drives for 7 days was developed early on. Modern history is just a rough study of ancient and world history, and it is unclear how many similarities and differences there are in terms of details. After all, Bai Yi had limited knowledge about the history of the original world. And those who need to memorize the entire text in the textbook, although it seems that there hasn't been much change, who knows if there will be some unofficial history and official history whose positions are swapped between the two worlds. So when it comes to copying official texts, although it's not impossible, don't expect to memorize the entire text. It can be said that although both worlds appear to be modern cities, there are still many differences in the development of history, culture, political system, world structure, and many other details between the two worlds. Based on the knowledge learned in memory, it can be seen that during these 40 years, a large number of cutting-edge technologies have been converted from military to civilian use, leading to rapid development in the field of artificial intelligence and far exceeding the level of software and hardware in the past life. Although the completely stealth technology of Sword God domain has not yet been developed, this world already has a relatively mature VR game cabin, aviation technology conversion, and game helmets, and new generation eyewear personal terminals often have new product, PPT, launches. That is to say, just like BB phones and public telephone booths being rapidly phased out, and newsstands gradually disappearing, many industries in the world of Baiyi have not yet developed in this world, but have already entered dusk with the iteration of hardware and carriers. For example, this world has skipped black and white televisions and big head computers. Initially, ordinary people used home terminals with different main functions in their homes. And because the dark clouds of war have dissipated, the fields of confrontation among countries around the world have also tacitly shifted to various soft power competitions. The country vigorously supports the fields of technology, culture, and sports. By chance, games were not seen as electronic opium like in their past lives, but rather as a medium similar to film and television. And with the emergence of world competitions, classic games, and highly influential awards, games have gradually become known as the ninth art. Yes, there are already many classic games in this world. Otherwise, it would not be possible to list it separately as the ninth art. Of course, there are still parents who cannot teach their children strange games well, just like a series of entertainment methods such as strange TV, martial arts novels, cricket fighting, opera, etc. in the past. Due to the development of artificial intelligence, in this world, if game designers want to design a game, they no longer need to self-study programming as programmers, but only need to learn how to operate the game editor. From casual small games worth tens of MB to large-scale VR games worth tens of TB, super editors can complete everything. Most independent game developers want to create small games without the need for numerous professional skills, such as numerical values, storylines, systems, levels, etc., all of which can be aided to some extent by editors. Just need to be able to write game design drafts, and even use a game editor to create the game you want on your own. So in this world, the number of single-player games alone is hundreds of times that of previous lives. Of course, the time spent on the same game varies with different editors, versions, and payment options. Similarly, the threshold for game production has been lowered, but the upper limit is not limited to the tools used. The quality of the game still depends on the level of the designer. After roughly sorting out the differences in worldview, Baiyi did not rush to open the game editor. Instead, he opened a browser and began searching for information about the ethnic autonomous region and related cultural and entertainment works. Normally, even if the book garden www.zhaoshuyuan.com is directly unified, there may still be some industries with unique features of Hefeng. Of course, Baiyi is not simply lustful, but wants to know the classification and scale of this world. If the grading is done well and there are no significant restrictions on the import of Japanese specialties, then a level of gameplay like the previous game, damn it, is completely impossible to compete with works dedicated by teachers with both moral and artistic qualities. And if the review restrictions for version numbers are not as strict, Baiyi can also relax some while creating. On the contrary, it is necessary to honestly study how to pass the review before pondering the work. Very good, the grading system is very comprehensive, and there are clear standards for review. Even online platforms are much more prosperous and open than in the past. After Baiyi's understanding and learning, this world can be seen as a cultural and entertainment world in various aspects. There is a clear awareness of copyright, and the piracy industry is rare. Although the gaming industry is prosperous, there are also some blank areas, and some classic works are nowhere to be found. Of course, with the development of AI, it benefits not only the gaming industry, but also changes the barriers to entry for other industries. Baiyi doesn't necessarily have to stick to game development, using AI to write online articles, and even drawing comics is not impossible. Authors who are good at utilizing AI, just like photographers who are good at using cameras and Photoshop, are all emerging professions. Just as photographers cannot eliminate artists, in the long run, AI authors also cannot eliminate authors. The two are not actually the same profession, it's just that the target customer group has a slightly higher weight reproduction. As for what exactly does Baiyi want to do? He was planning to try and see if he could wait for that beep. Chapter 2. Golden Finger. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Awakening various systems after crossing has become a standard feature for travelers to some extent. Although not absolute, personally speaking, Baiyi still hopes for a systematic approach. After all, in one's own life, if one can choose a simple mode, why bother trying the hellish difficulty with a head iron? As for not unlocking the system immediately after landing, Baiyi is not too anxious. Based on Baiyi's years of reading experience, the system often starts at the beginning of the plot, rather than when the protagonist travels through it. The unlocking conditions for different systems are also diverse. Some people need to officially enter a certain industry before unlocking systems such as movie emperors, war kings, divine doctors, artists, and great directors. Some works require formal completion in order to unlock systems such as directors, chefs, singers, and scientists. There are also systems that need to accumulate special energy, popularity/merit/spiritual stones, break up with girlfriends, and enjoy being a father themselves. Even some special systems need to wait until the world updates the expansion pack, spiritual revival, doomsday arrival, and then be reborn again. So for readers, the system appears in the first few chapters of the story, but for the protagonist of the walkthrough, the system may have been a long time after the journey. Of course, if it's a system that only opens at the age of 100, then Baiyi thinks it would be better if it doesn't exist. As for the next step, Baiyi naturally needs to try to wake up the system. After all, among many wake-up methods, there is no simpler one than voice and gesture wake up. Deep blue. Crimson. Wind, spirit, moon shadow. System. After seeing a light blue screen pop up and seeing the name of the credit system at the top, Baiyi breathed a sigh of relief. Now, not to mention whether one is an absolute protagonist, the system has long been flooded, but it is also not a cannon fodder NPC in the background board, or a death number without a name. Not to mention anything else, at least with the system in place, a clear path of growth is in front of me. Instead of worrying about confusion and chaos after graduating from college. Whether there are cheats or not, these are two different things. Often only the strong have the right to choose, and the right to say no is always very important. Even if you don't use the system, you are prepared to rely on your own vision and strength to embrace a new life. There is a way out and there is no way out, but your mentality is also different. Of course, Baiyi has nothing that doesn't rely on the system, and I am equally confident. There is also no pattern or pursuit, and if there is something hanging in front of me, Baiyi will definitely use it. Opening cheats affects the lifespan of the game, and not opening cheats shortens the player's lifespan. How to choose is not a simple task. Name. Baiyi, talent. Mechanism, achievement. Visitors from a different realm, item. Merit system. Click to expand, . Looking at the red dots, Baiyi associated them with QQ, WeChat, and various unread messages in games. Then, the red dots eliminated OCD and immediately moved Baiyi's hand to the system menu. With Baiyi's click, the submenus unfolded one by one, and Baiyi began to read and explain one by one. Firstly, there is the talent of White Knight's mechanism. Mechanism refers to the structural relationships and operational patterns among various factors. In games, game mechanics refer to the rules, processes, and data of the core parts of the game. They define how the activity of playing games is carried out, when and what happens, what are the conditions for victory and failure, and so on. That is to say, the talent of Baiyi can be simply understood as game rules and game data. White Knight can establish, query, modify, and delete game rules and related game data within a certain range. However, it is currently unclear to what extent this modification can be achieved. At present, Baiyi only defines himself as a traveler through the achievement mechanism. And under this individual walkthrough, a game mechanism that only applies to the walkthrough and rewards are obtained by achieving achievements is bound. Later, due to the achievement mechanism, rewards were given to items, resulting in a reward storage item column. It is obvious that the merit system in the item is the reward for the foreign visitors and achievements of Bai Yi. As for the details of achievements, Bai Yi still needs to explore. Just like a game designer, they do not fully understand all the mechanisms in the game, let alone the entire framework code of a specific mechanism, and are familiar with all the image materials. Bai Yi, to some extent, is just like a product manager and doesn't know how the world's programmer achieves their needs. When inserting talent into the mechanism, there is no testing part, only two results. Success or failure. After a certain mechanism is successfully inserted, whether there will be a situation of successful, but only slightly successful, and whether there will be various bugs caused by conflicts with other existing mechanisms, which also needs to be slowly tested day and night. The mechanism of successful insertion will not produce overly outrageous bugs, let alone cause the world to crash, no bugs, all mechanisms. The current problem is that this achievement mechanism was created by the subconscious of White Knight, and the implementation process went through the understanding and processing of the world. Finally, the information that White Knight can query has almost no effect on White Knight's understanding of this mechanism. This also made him aware that achieving achievements can earn rewards, but he had no idea about the specific triggering conditions for achievements. Of course, the main reason is that Bai Ye's talent development level is extremely low. With Bai Ye's current level of talent development, he cannot see the world's material library, development tools, and development environment. He can only open an additional gold finger interface on the basis of the game interface and make changes to the data recorded in the interface. The data items in the more core database and the functional modules of the game require the administrator's backend to be open day and night. Therefore, Bai Yi can use his talent to modify the achievement records that have already been achieved, repeatedly swipe after deleting the achievements, and can freely increase or decrease the number and names of the obtained items. However, he cannot directly modify the data in the credit system derived items of this item. Because whether it is the composition mechanism of the world or the composition mechanism of the system, neither day or night has a clear understanding. By arbitrarily modifying a certain value within the system, the world may be fine, but the system and even human civilization may directly become non-existent. I have permission to modify, but I don't understand how to make changes, so I can't make any changes. Of course, this is because at present, Bai Ye's understanding and application of talents are not deep, just like a rookie who has just received a peerless divine weapon. It would be easy for Bai Yi to use divine weapons to chop trees and brush monsters, but it would be difficult for him to carve. Because even if it's just a simple carving on a tree, he could easily use his sword too well, lightly exerting force and unleashing a 40-meter sword energy to destroy a forest. If it is necessary to change, it is not impossible. If the target subject locked by the talent is changed from world to merit system, then the internal mechanism of the merit system can be modified. But this is actually putting the cart before the horse. It is not difficult to change the binding and modify the main body, and there are no cooling restrictions, but switching back is not easy. After he entered, he didn't know how to re-lock onto the current world, at most he could lock onto the Earth and the solar system. If the subject is changed, not only will it no longer have the power to modulate the world for a long time, but it is also necessary to consider the mechanism of insertion into the system and whether it will be killed by world rules. The credit system is an achievement reward that has passed the world's review, and does not represent a cracked version of the credit system. Similarly, Zhaoshuyuan.com will not be recognized by the world as a virus. If we don't change the subject of binding and locking, the current wholesale system that can be achieved, aside from that, in the long run, White Knight can turn this unfamiliar world in front of us into some familiar games or novels, fill a few main god spaces, infinite secret realms, and so on, and open up the infinite path. Of course, whether this process is lengthy or not, various problems may arise. After watching the Blue and White Society trilogy, Bai Yi, with the power to modify the world, is not in a hurry to let the world see what to do. If, due to some mechanism added by oneself, something like a shelter or a monster is really created, it won't be fun anymore. Bai Yi completely does not want to engage in a battle of wits and courage with the increasing and potentially dangerous containment materials, let alone the possibility of his life hanging on the line at any time. Being able to be the only one who can do it, Azu, who wants to live in fear. If there is a crash on some mechanism monsters once, then it will really be sent. The current version, whether it is the real protagonist or not, is not just about checking for cheating systems. A peaceful world where there are currently no supernatural beings, cultivators, or ancient warriors, there is no need to make it perilous just to seek excitement. As for lifespan and strength, it's entirely possible to rely on the system first. The credit system is the simplest and most crude point flow system, and anything can be solved by adding points. When Bai Yi really can't get the points, or the system reaches its limit, then we can look at the improvements that science can bring. When the development of science also falls into a bottleneck, can we then develop our own talents and travel around the world? System, let me see your limits. JPG. Chapter 3. Merit and Labor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source of points in the credit system is very simple. Labor. Yes, there is no need for gold, silver, or currency, no need for various energies, no need to travel around, no need for the pursuit of others, just do your own thing. And although it is called the credit system, when settling accounts, it highlights the phrase, there is no credit, there is also hard work. Any labor, whether physical or mental, whether mechanical repetition or innovation, as long as there is labor and output, can obtain corresponding points. Is there only one type of point count in the system? When Bai Yi saw that points could be obtained through labor, he was already thinking about the limitations of points. Surprisingly, it's not like the Liver Experience series where doing something can only accumulate experience for one skill, and the skill levels are independent of each other, without affecting the panel flow of other skills. It's not like dividing it into two parts, work and labor, and then labor can only accumulate experience bars, and breaking through bottlenecks requires special points like work. Even the produced works can continue to bring in points. And a credit point is equivalent to being fully focused on doing something for a day. In theory, anything can be given credit points. Simply put, even for instant noodles, Bai Yi can have rich and abnormal experiences. After all, under normal circumstances, no one would try to make noodles in their mouth. But in this way, it seems to be testing my own talent limit. According to the reading experience of Bai Yi, this system based on doing a day on your own often highlights things that you are good at and not good at. Those who are good at it get twice the result with half the effort, while those who are good at it get twice the result with half the effort. Of course, it has already been opened, so it is also possible to force it. After all, the excitement of adding points to the flow is that after one click of adding points, others need years of hard work, need the foundation of understanding, and skills that require special resources to directly break through. Afterwards, relying on the improvement of skills, we can achieve a reasonable strategy of defeating the strong with the weak. Therefore, the way in which Golden Finger's resources, points, are obtained is often a major driving force for the development of the plot. For example, in many cases of plagiarism, whether it's in movies, games, or novels, the way points are obtained, the works of novice gift packages, and the exchange price for the next target work are the beginning and main storyline of many stories. Now, although points do not require additional resources, all resource consumption, whether energy or money, in a day only exists in the experience memory of the day and night. Of course, the current limit on holding resources has also been fixed. That is to say, if there is no mecha present, or if Bai Yi cannot manufacture a mecha, Bai Yi cannot learn how to drive a mecha. No matter how many points are invested, the result is the same. However, although there is a theoretical upper limit, this upper limit is actually very high. After all, a normal person cannot spend all their money to learn a certain skill or study a certain item, nor can they have countless lives that can dance with the Grim Reaper under various extreme conditions and summarize failure experiences after death. At first glance, this hand looks like a beginner, and even experienced hands have no hands. JPG, but in this way, I won't become a physical force, will I? As is well known, when the golden finger is very strong, the protagonist's situation will also be relatively bad, and the difficult world is also a standard configuration. This way, there are more targets for slapping faces and more small monsters that can explode gold coins. If it's not just about the strength of the golden finger, but also when the protagonist is set to be very free, the main task needs relatively reasonable conditions to lead out. Meanwhile, overall, the portrayal of various things in the plot of the work will also greatly test the author's intelligence and knowledge level. Until he talked about my major. JPG. After all, due to the needs of the plot, the protagonist is prone to encountering people and events that they haven't encountered in hundreds of years. Solving various mathematical problems, inventing various medicines, and presenting groundbreaking products are also acceptable. But the protagonist encounters elites in the setting, who are either romantic-minded or illiterate or legal blind. It is a bit excessive to see things like reverse pi in mathematics, minus 1000 degrees Celsius in physics, and reproductive isolation of the same species in biology. Novels are not reality, they require logic. But if we want to become bigger and stronger, we also have to compete with others. Bai Yi is not afraid of becoming a pushover. After all, if we want to become bigger and stronger, and create glory again, we cannot do without competition and harmony. Regardless of whether there is an aura of mockery or not, as long as there is no aura of lowering intelligence, the final development process is almost identical. There are only so many people, and the market is so big. When distributing cakes, some people eat more, some eat less, and some are eaten by others. It's not about right or wrong, it's just about pure interests. The contradictions caused by interests are often the sharpest and most difficult to reconcile. Since that's the case, let's start working as a porter. Since we have found Ding, it is time to officially start the game. Bai Yi opened the computer and began searching for AI tools that were relatively useful for personal studios. Although there are cheats, he is still a poor person at the moment. Before the income from his works, referring to money, is received, he should try not to spend money on the book garden www.zhaoshuyuan.com. After all, for him, the cost of time is the cheapest, and after producing his first work and starting to snowball, compared to the paid tools that must occupy a portion of the funds, the annual fee expenditure in a year's points, using free and open-source tools will result in a higher theoretical upper limit for Bai Yi. After all, the software level in this world far exceeds that of the previous life. Nuclear energy exchange, and open-source tools can also fully support the development of 3D games, but there is still room for improvement in game development such as VR. Although free may also carry the risk of running away from the original open-source object deletion library, as the saying goes, time cost is the cheapest cost for the current day and night. It's hard to say if someone will do something wrong with the paid ones, such as the installation fee for Unity, in the future. When time becomes more precious and funds become more abundant, day and night will only consider the matter of exchanging money for time. Just like many people's lives, time is exchanged for money in the early stages, and money is exchanged for time in the later stages. As for how to get the first number of points. Soak noodles, boil water, install development tools, and import the first tutorial template. Although there is no sustained income, the first bucket of gold is already there, which can be used to overcome the tedious entry barriers and familiarize oneself with development tools. Although it's just a little bit, with the buff of full focus, learning efficiency can be said to be doubled. In theory, a little credit is only 24 hours, but every second of those 24 hours is the peak of the theoretical essence and spirit of White Knight. In reality, it can be comparable to the effect of more than 10 days of White Night. After establishing the foundation, Bai Yi saved a considerable amount of time in subsequent creations. No matter how cheap the cost is, it is also a cost. Chapter 4. Identity. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Tetris, complete. After gaining introductory experience, Bai Yi completed this introductory level tutorial project in less than 2 hours. Afterwards, I roughly edited the screen recording materials and created a title for The First Day of Learning Game Production, which was posted on several frequently viewed video websites. After attaching the game's online storage link in the video introduction, Bai Yi began to search for various copyright-related regulations and registered game plans in a targeted manner. Tetris, which is only used for learning purposes, does not require much attention. At most, it is just a video that has been taken down. If the game it produces violates copyright, a lot of time and energy will be wasted, and it may also face huge fines. Of course, because AI auditing is more advanced in this world, there is little opportunity for obvious infringement to be released. Similarly, it is because of this that the competition for which side wins in a vague infringement case is not only based on the relevant evidence of the case itself, but also on the influence of both parties. After searching for a moment, Bai Yi suddenly stopped his hand. System, spend the remaining credit points to organize your own memory. In theory, Bai Yi's familiarity with this world is not limited to the current pattern of seeing flowers in the mist. It is only due to the self-protection of the brain and the resistance in Bai Yi's heart that he has only a rough understanding of the world. Schro Dinger's family background can bring out some relatives, friends, or archenemies when needed in the plot. In fact, even if one passively waits for triggering in subsequent life without relying on the system, it will not make people feel that there is anything abnormal about it. But if he is conducive to the patient recollection and organization of the system, he can obtain at least 10 years of foreign world knowledge and a varying amount of professional knowledge. Since it's a matter of time, Bai Yi also doesn't want to suddenly change some plans due to some of the pitfalls left by her predecessor in the future. By sorting out one's current status, interpersonal relationships, unfinished matters, and basic knowledge of the world early on, one can avoid being too hasty when things come to an end. Quickly, a large amount of memories merged into Bai Yi's memory, and Bai Yi's credit points began to mysteriously increase slightly. Because the system determines that the subject is only the traveler, White Knight, the process of receiving the original body's memory is to some extent equivalent to White Knight learning in class. Can it also be considered a beginner's benefit? A classic orphan identity, but adopted at the age of 6. The foster parents mainly rely on rent collection, and according to the known information, they seem to have not participated in other investment and entrepreneurship projects. In addition to her foster parents, there is also an older sister named Bai Yu, who has just entered her senior year. The original student has just signed up for the college entrance examination, and all the applicants are universities in Kyoto, this city. With their scores and registered residence, they have a high probability of becoming Bai Yu's younger brother. The majors I applied for are all related to software and games, but it seems that the current software in this world is gradually becoming the second most popular in the past. There are no memorable enemies. The family has no special debts. Harmonious family relationships, no alcoholism, domestic violence, preference for sons over daughters. Adopting Bai Yi is because Bai Yu wants a younger brother. The apartment I currently live in is one of the properties, just preparing for the start of school. Computers are just a gift for further education. Wait, why do I feel like I'm just a poor guy? The income is only pocket money, and the deposit is only 177,200 yuan. Only. Oh, I was planning to develop a 3D game during my college years, but I still need some money. The Chinese language seems to be quite different, but still those who have to memorize the text and guess the purpose of the question setters. But history seems to be different. Although there are still many dynasties that treat low blood pressure and civil and military officials who want to make people want to be defeated, the end of the imperial system came earlier and there was also a short-term period of capital. Indeed, the gap between modern history and world history is the greatest. Due to differences in history, there have also been many differences in related political events. Mathematics doesn't seem to be very different. Perhaps there may be differences in the people who propose formulas, but mathematics is still that mathematics. Biology and physics also seem to have not changed much. At least there is not much disruptive difference in the content related to high school or below. Oh, it seems that the mass energy reaction equation has not been proposed yet, or rather, it has not been published yet. It seems that due to too much investment in materials science, there are fewer top theoretical scientists in physics and mathematics. As for what exactly is missing that leads to a significant difference in the direction of nuclear physics and quantum physics, it is not clear what is missing. In his previous life, he was not an academic magnate, just an ordinary graduate from a third-rate university. People in this world don't know how to point out nuclear bombs, so the importance of nuclear physics in cutting-edge theoretical research is not as high as that of intelligent AI. Perhaps because of this world, the development of various battery and power generation industries is just too good. The industries related to photovoltaic power generation, geothermal power generation, wind power generation, etc. have replaced thermal power generation with various magical materials and become the mainstream power generation method. After the emergence of high-abundance batteries that can adapt to extreme cold and heat, electric vehicles quickly replaced gasoline-powered vehicles, and most of the civilian petrochemical energy also became chemical raw materials. However, establishing complex, expensive raw materials, difficult maintenance, huge actual output losses, and potentially serious pollution nuclear power plants, naturally, there are not many theoretical laboratories that have officially fallen into production. Of course, pollution and other related issues are not really a concern for capitalists. The main reason is that compared to existing power plants, nuclear power has higher costs and lower profits. It can be said that marine life in this world is to some extent much luckier than in the previous life, even though the oceans in this world are polluted by plastics, pesticides, and so on. The popularity of supercomputing is extremely high, and it is basically a standard configuration for large companies. Or rather, in this world, companies that cannot even afford supercomputing are not enough to be called big companies. Weak artificial intelligence has gradually become commercialized, but strong artificial intelligence still seems to be a military product. Even Western defense contractors have tacitly restricted high-intelligence AI. The national football team is still very poor, but in terms of intelligent football, the national team ranks among the top. What is this? Super intelligent football. Or is it true that the Chinese national team was not saved? The gap between childhood memories series is even greater, whether it's in movies or music, they are both the existence of two worlds. It's not because of the barriers of the times. But in other words, ancient poetry cannot be copied, it seems that movies and TV dramas can be copied. Although there are still some themes that are similar, there are also some that do not exist. If I could recall the plot and bring up a crew. White Knight's own memory can naturally be enhanced, but there is no point gain in the process of recalling White Knight. Of course, after the creation is completed, there will be no deductions because it is not original. I just don't know if the script won't adapt to the local environment. Under different historical and cultural backgrounds, finding a book garden www.zhaoshuyuan.com can lead to completely different results even for the same drama. For example, Lord Huanzhu, perhaps I should copy the song first. Not to mention many, there are still a few complete classic songs in Bai Ye's memory. Or to put it another way, what can be fully remembered by Bai Yi is the kind of song that can last a lifetime, or something that once became popular throughout the country. There is a virtual singer, and the speed of producing a song is much faster than playing games. But there's too much distraction, even if there's a hang-up, it's not good. The biggest problem with cross-domain collaboration is not primarily a matter of funding, but rather a matter of people who can be trusted. To support enough fields, talent is necessary, and a large number of trustworthy talents cannot be cultivated in a short period of time. If the entrusted person is not human, forced to cash out and leave, being sidelined by numerous managers, being kicked out of the house, or even being taken to bear the blame, it is all possible. If you want it all, you may not get it all. There have always been many insiders who may not know how to make the company bigger and stronger, but they not only understand but are also very proficient in turning the company into their own. It's better to focus on the game first, and then advance and develop with the game's music, art, copywriting, and more. This is not a golden idea. The development of IPs such as Marvel, Warcraft, Disney is mostly like this. Although there is never a shortage of strange talents in the world, I am clearly not one of them. Bai Yi had a clear understanding of himself, and before the snowball rolled, he was just a student with some strange experiences. Not to mention being playful, he is not an outstanding talent in terms of technology, creativity, and vision. Chapter 5. A Woman Named Mengzi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dingling bell, Xiao Bai, have you woken up yet? Come out to eat. The sound coming from the phone first stunned Bai Yi, but soon she realized it was her sister Bai Yu. Aren't you going to learn a driver's license? It's 12 o'clock, my young master. Bai Yu's dissatisfied voice came, give you 10 minutes, otherwise I won't wait for you. Still the same place. Bai Yi looked at the progress bar on the screen and asked helplessly. It won't take 10 minutes there, it's that restaurant, Bai Yu said. Hurry up, I'm starving to death. Dudu, Bai Yi reluctantly crossed off the pop-up window, saved the completed data, closed the tutorial video on developing game copyrights on the computer, and finally spent 2 more credits organizing memories before getting up and leaving the door. Bai Yi went by taxi, not because he didn't have a car, but because he didn't have a driver's license. Because he just turned 18 this year, he registered for driving school a few days ago. As soon as Bai Yi entered the door, the boss smiled and said, Xiao Bai, your sister is already waiting upstairs, in the 3rd room on the left. Just in time, you can help Uncle bring these 2 dishes up. Bai Yi took the plate and said, Uncle Duan, are you mushrooms again? What kind of mushroom? This is a top-quality mushroom that your aunt just sent back the day before yesterday. Uncle Duan suddenly said seriously, it's different from artificially raised mushrooms in the greenhouse. Can I still give you mushrooms from the greenhouse? This family is owned by real relatives. Although their entire family has the surname Bai, Bai's mother is from southern Yunnan. It's different. Last year, Uncle San's family took you to the hospital. White Night roast, if you don't know, you don't know. If you pick poisonous mushrooms, you pick them. If you don't stir-fry them, you don't put garlic, and snakes crawl through them. The doctors here don't have the same expertise as those over there. That time, his family really ate the mushrooms before they were cooked. Uncle Duan said stiffly before explaining, why did you think I came to open a shop near the hospital? I would keep samples if I needed to. Although it may be a bit absurd, the bacteria that may have entered the hospital were personally picked by them and were specifically left by Uncle Duan for their families. Even if other guests want to eat and even ask them to bring some back, they will only bring some mushrooms from the market, the same mushrooms, but the elderly always feel that they are not as good as picking them themselves. More customers will still be recommended by him to eat fresh locally. After all, some ingredients require precision processing, otherwise there is a risk of poisoning, such as cassava. And Uncle Duan didn't pay much attention to Bai Ye's teasing. Although he only missed last year's one in the past decade, he had heard of people with food poisoning, and there were not 1,000 or 800 people each year. If it weren't for his family, he wouldn't want to trouble. From now on, you'll still be burdened. We'll just eat the ready-made ones. White Knight didn't really have any complaints, just roast by the way. After all, the bacteria are really delicious, and Uncle San and his team only vomited and had diarrhea. They were discharged within 2 days after receiving the injection. Truly high-risk and unfamiliar bacteria, Uncle Duan had already picked them out on his own. When Bai Yi carried the vegetables upstairs, the sound of Bai Yu could be heard from a distance. He's a little black fairy. Also, he's going with a stick. Bai Yi quickly coughed, interrupting Bai Yu's popularization of black history. Although it is very obvious that this can only stop for a while, as long as it cannot be heard, Bai Yi can consider it as non-existent. As a ultimate mansion, it is highly likely that they will not meet each other in the future, and Bai Yi doesn't care about what they think afterwards. Oh, Xiao Bai, you came quite quickly. Come and meet her, her name is Shi Meng. She is a relative of Grandpa Si and a member of her clan. She is coming to Kyoto to study abroad and may be your classmate in the future. According to Japanese customs, you can also call her Mengzi, Bai Yu said to Bai Yi, holding on to the black long straight wearing a JK suit beside her, the surname Shi. The Shi from Shi Taijun. Bai Yi was somewhat surprised, but not because she had relatives in Japan, but because of that surname. After Japan was designated as an autonomous region, there were also large-scale human migrations such as filling rivers in Hubei, Guangxi, and the Western Development. Therefore, many people also moved in the early years. As for the multiple names of Shi Meng, they are different terms such as ID card name, ethnic name, nickname, etc. According to Japanese customs, the number of girls calling them Tex is roughly the same as calling them Texli, Xli, Xiao X, or Jia-E, and so on. So, in order to save time, people who move over usually take a character for men and add a sub-character after a Chinese name for women, which is considered a Japanese name. Of course, it is impossible to change surnames. On the contrary, a considerable number of surnames over there have started to become monosyllabic. Simply because it follows my husband's surname, wait, Shi Meng, Mengzi, Snake, Mengzi. The abyss of wild gambling. You don't have a sickly sister, do you? Bai Yi felt like he was overthinking things, and since he wasn't refreshing in Tokyo, there was no reason to start so lightly. And Yenny Yuan's dream child has no reason to study abroad, right? Do Bai Yi classmates know me? Mengzi tilted her head. Or do you know my sister? What is your sister's name? Bai Yi thought to herself. Shouldn't she really have a snake-like imagination or something like that? Sister's name is Shiroi. That chip has 2 more cores than the chip's core. Although it's not what she wants, it seems that Bai Yi really knows Mengzi's sister. It seems that Bai Yi Jun really knows my sister, Mengzi replied with a smile. Since her parents passed away at the age of 6, Shiroi has resorted to this strange spelling method when introducing her name. Even if I become a wicked woman with a snake and scorpion heart, I will definitely protect you. Since then, Shi Meng has gradually learned to wear a reassuring smile on her face. I met her in the game group, but isn't she a senior executive of a multinational company? Bai Yi remembers that after someone recognized her in the group, she immediately withdrew from the group without saying anything, and didn't see her again during work hours. And in the setting, the sister of Mengzi, who is mentally unstable, should not be able to handle the management job. Right. It was introduced by Aunt Bai, Mengzi replied with a smile. When I was 12 years old, Aunt Bai came to Japan for tourism. 6 years ago. Bai Yi pondered, when was the year of the anti-crime storm? As mentioned earlier, the development direction of the 2 worlds is not completely consistent, and there are countless differences in details. The impact of national-level details on a generation is no less than a historic upheaval, as the saying goes, one emperor, one courtier. After the change of ownership in Japan, the emperor and others naturally no longer exist, and the original interest groups also need to make room for new nobles. Zhaoshuyuan.com After completing the handover work that stabilizes people's hearts, it is also very reasonable to have a reasonable and legal reshuffle. If there had been a strict crackdown on organized crime in Japan, then most of the members of the so-called 100 clan would either eat peanuts or sing Iron Window Tears, and few would still be able to live freely. After all, some things can respect customs, some things can be ignored, and some things, daring to touch is equivalent to seeking death. For example, evading taxes in eagle sauce, selling powder in rabbits, and taking hostages, or becoming hostages, in Damao. And without shelter, the private 100 Flowers King College is also likely to be shut down and renovated. If Mengzi did not attend the 100 Flowers King Academy again, even her sister would no longer need to participate in related struggles. It is normal for her life trajectory to be different. To ask an impolite question, "Aren't you gambling on dogs?" Although the abyss of crazy gambling is also known as a quitting gambling film, and Mengzi is also a god of gambling in terms of performance, Bai Yi firmly believes that gambling dogs cannot die easily. If Mengzi is a dangerous person who gambles for the sake of gambling in the setting, then he should not be exposed too deeply. Of course not, gambling is illegal, Mengzi seemed to remember something. I just enjoy playing some money laundering games. On the other hand, Bai Yejuan, are you the ultimate guarantee person that my sister said, although you have the same surname as Bai Ant, you are as black as an African totem. Bai Ye's face immediately turned black, and the memories of drawing cards in his memory could be considered the darkest moment. He can reproduce more than half of the theoretical minimum value of the card drawing system. So much so that in the end, he completely refused any game without a guarantee. The world is really small, Bai Yu couldn't help but sigh. Chapter 6. I Saw the Subtitles. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Achieved the goal of seeing young hands and small people, obtain synesthesia. Visual subtitles. When Bai Yi finished his meal and saw these two pop-up messages, his heart immediately tightened. However, after sitting up straight in the daytime, there was no feeling of spinning around, and there were no colorful abnormal blocks in the field of vision, nor any physical discomfort. After letting go of the burden, Bai Yi began to read the detailed introduction. The condition for achieving success is to have a meal and see your hands green. There is no requirement to be poisoned. After poisoning, there must be toxic side effects that can be seen in small people. Eating cooked and non-toxic food is sufficient. As for the synesthesia visual subtitles, Bai Yi can choose whether to load Chinese and English subtitles similar to those in movies in the existing field of view. The synesthesia of prefixes means that besides what is seen, what is heard, touched, or even smelled can all be displayed in the form of subtitles. The translation effect of subtitles, whether it is artificial intelligence or artificial intelligence, depends on their own translation ability. In theory, as long as there is a day and night meeting, it is not only possible to translate between Chinese and English, but also possible to translate 26 languages into Chinese. By the way, this ability also belongs to the talent column. It doesn't seem difficult to achieve this achievement, Bai Yi thought to herself, but the randomness is not small, and there is no need to force it. The focus is still on one's own career. Xiao Bai, let's go practice driving together this afternoon, Bai Yu said. Then I'll take you and Xiao Meng to recognize each other. No, I'm going to take the exam for Subject 1 in the afternoon. I'm planning to take the exam for Subject 2 next week, Bai Yi refused. Hey! Don't you need to brush your class hours? Bai Yu asked strangely. Let's have a friendly conversation with the coach and ask him to spare some time for me. 1 week is enough anyway. The surveillance system in this world is very advanced, and before driving, you need to brush your driver's license to start it normally. Therefore, regardless of whether there is a car or not, there are many people taking the exam. Besides, after buying a car, you can't always stay in the garage to eat dust, and you can't always take a taxi when traveling. It's still necessary to take a driver's license exam during your free time. However, Bai Yi is not planning to spend too much time on the driving test. Before registering, he plans to complete a complete game first. A truly complete game is not just created and left unattended, but starts from design and continues until it is submitted for review and shelving. That is to say, Bai wants to get a first-hand understanding of the general work of independent gamers in this world. But at the current pace, the gap in credit points is not small. He can refer to successful works from previous lives for game design, and rely on editors and AI assistants for programming. But for a series of other things such as art, operations, approval, pricing, etc., he needs to take the initial step of getting started. Whether it's through adding points or pure self-study. Therefore, he needs to set aside time to produce something that can continue to bring him credit, such as cutting videos, making emojis, refining emojis, writing comments, etc. Speaking of which, Mengzi, do you have a driver's license? Bai heard that in the past, a driver's license in Japan could be considered as an ID card, and the driver's license code was basically equivalent to the social code. How can we say that the Japanese in this world have been unified? It shouldn't be allowed to be so chaotic. I just don't know if they are also using the same system of ID cards or another identity management system similar to the Hong Kong and Macau travel permits. Getting a driver's license in Japan is very simple, it only requires 2 subjects. A theoretical exam and a road test. Mengzi took out her driver's license and said, "But I have to drive myself for the road test. Is this universal?" Bai asked curiously, "Do you still need to go and renew the certificate?" "I need to take a road test before I can change my license because I took the test in a right-hand drive car." "Is that so?" Bai calculated briefly in her heart, spending 3 points, then I'll go directly to Japan to take the exam. It only takes about a week from registration to obtaining the certificate over there, or because I need to go through a 2-working day process to transfer. If I use the left-hand drive car directly, I don't need to change my certificate again. Although it would cost around 93,000 yuan including airfare, accommodation, and so on, it's much faster than taking the exam here. Yes, the addition of White Knight can to some extent be seen as an extrapolation of the future of the Life Simulator version. Although action plans can be developed to a certain extent, only one thing can be at the core. Learning to drive will revolve around driving, learning to cook will revolve around cooking, and all other things that are not directly related will be blurred. And the longer the duration of a single deduction, the more people participate, and the more events and information that cannot be understood through existing public channels are involved, the more distorted the deduction results will be. Therefore, technology and knowledge are 1 and 2, and Bai can confidently accumulate points to learn and research. If you want to use them in other things, especially in strategic roles, don't be too hopeful. Because the White Knight cannot be like the protagonist who is trapped in a time cycle tens of thousands of times, travels through the next few hundred years, and is reborn from the future. It can obtain a large amount of secrets from simulations that were theoretically only known by 1 or 2 parties at the time, and use various secrets to conduct quick pass strategies. If you go to Japan, you can stay at my house without any accommodation fees. Mengzi's index finger nodded at the corner of his mouth and asked curiously, but how did Bai Jun know the specific amount of consumption? Within the country, the normal transfer procedures take 2 working days, regardless of whether the transfer is to overseas Japan or not. When knowing that the other party is a student, the other party will also casually mention that even if they go to another province to study, they can continue their driving test and will refund a portion of their tuition fees. Anyway, earning less is better than not earning. Zhaoshuyuan.com, but accurately calculating consumption is a bit unusual. Based on Mengzi's own estimation as a Japanese, for a normal 7-day tour, the cost of accommodation alone would have to at least double for individual expenses. I originally made a travel guide, but later gave it up. When I was learning to drive, I also checked the fees and ratings of driving schools in various regions. Then, Bai took out his phone and demonstrated it to the 2 of them. From air tickets, hotels, meals, to paid packages at various driving schools, student graduation rates, and the shortest graduation time, it can only be said that normal people and model people of the credit system are ultimately different. Model people are far more pure or extreme than anyone else. But I just cleaned up Xiaomeng's dust today. Bai Yu exclaimed discontentedly, they just landed, so you have to drag them away again. Yes, in the model plan, it would be best for him to depart immediately, just in time to catch the plane to Tokyo, and then, after a full 24/7 hours, he would arrive home just in time. I think. It's me, not us, right? Bai Yi didn't really want to go out with the two beautiful women. On the one hand, there is a difference between men and women, and it is inevitable that there will be inconvenient places for the two girls to go out with them. On the other hand, it is a disaster for beauty. The two beautiful women are highly likely to provoke various small monsters, not to mention that Bai Yi may also be a troublemaker. It is unnecessary to provoke such a bunch of troubles and have to spend the credit on some strange skills when the time comes. Bai Yu let out Hui Fei's voice. It's okay, I can also stay with my sister for an extra week. Mengzi squinted her eyes, unsure of what she was thinking. Chapter 7. Japan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Mengzi. Shiroi saw her own sister as soon as she got home. Did I hallucinate? Good morning, Huijia. Have you had dinner yet? Do you want some? Bai Yu poked her head out of the kitchen. Bai Yi looked at Bai Yu in surprise. Do you want to hear what you're saying? JPG, Xiaoye. Shiroi said out of line, didn't you come around August? Xiao Bai is planning to come here to learn his driver's license. He said that he will take more exams than Kyoto Pine here and can finish it in 1 or 2 weeks, so I came earlier. Bai Yu explained, Xiao Bai is Bai Yi. He has already registered. Shiroi suddenly understood. The last time she chatted with Bai Yi was still a college entrance exam candidate, enjoying the advanced immune halo of not being disturbed by external things to take the exam. And from nationally protected animals to non-recyclable garbage piled up at home, this attitude has undergone a 180-degree turn in less than a month. Or, in other words, after completing the college entrance examination, one can still be free and unrestrained, and only lose their protective aura after completing the registration. They can no longer continue to lie at home and play games every day, and have to come out to learn a driver's license, which can be considered as having a super durable aura. Dabai, help me take out the soup first, and I'll stir-fry another dish. Bai Yi was not polite at all, as if this was his own home. I understand. Bai Yu responded and warmly greeted Shiroi, Sister Rui, sit down quickly. Although Xiao Bai's craftsmanship is average, she is still proficient in home-cooked dishes. Xiaomeng. Why are there guests at home? Are they cooking while you're watching TV? Guest. Mengzi tilted her head and pretended to be puzzled, isn't Sister Yu family? That's to say, Sister Rui, you're just too polite. Bai Yu put down her soup bowl, our younger brother doesn't have many opportunities to cook. We sisters have even fewer opportunities to eat, so sit down quickly. After speaking, he greeted Mengzi. Xiaomeng, wash your hands and eat. Soon, 4 people sat around and started eating. As they ate, the few of them started chatting. Is Xiao Bai planning to become a game designer in the future? Playing games is really too complicated, there are too many private enterprise bosses who are not suitable for people. Your name is Bai Yi, isn't it Zhongbai? Giving birth still requires caution. Innate character is not as good as nurture, and family cultivation is more important than school cultivation. Does Xiao Bai have a girlfriend? Who finished last, who washed the dishes? Bai Yi saw the fire about to burn on him, put down his bowl and got up upstairs. Seeing Bai Yi run away directly, the 2 sisters immediately showed a tacit smile. I've finished eating too, Mengzi put down her bowl and walked towards the direction where Bai Yi had left. Xiaoming's room. Isn't it on the second floor, is it? Bai Yu didn't care if the two of them really finished eating, but only cared if there were any signs of them. Shiroe's mood is extremely complicated. Xi Meng has been very sensible since childhood, and it can even be said that being sensible is heartbreaking. And her younger sister, who never bothered her from childhood to adulthood, naturally did not show any favoritism towards anyone, at least not in front of her. And while she was pleased by Bai Ye's undisguised interest, she couldn't help but feel the resentment of her own cabbage and pig running away. At the same time, I couldn't help but worry whether Bai Yi might feel that Mengzi had ulterior motives. After all, the sisters have always been taken care of by Aunt Bai, and Aunt Bai's family is actually quite rich. Mengzi's unreasonable enthusiasm may be misunderstood by Bai Yi as having ulterior motives. Never mind, children and grandchildren have their own blessings. Let the children solve their own problems, Bai Yu said without further thought. After quickly picking up the rice from the bowl, Bai Yu said, "I'll leave the rest to Sister Rui." Shirue looked at the few leftovers of food and couldn't help but be slightly taken aback, then smiled and pulled these leftovers into her bowl. Xiao Bai is quite good at cooking. Bai Yi Jun, I'm very curious, Xi Meng said endlessly. Curiosity. Curiosity for what? Bai Yi asked in confusion. I believe that Bai Yejuan has never been here before, and he is completely unfamiliar with the room layout here. But when cooking, whether it's ingredients, seasonings, or kitchen utensils, Bai Yejuan is familiar with them as if he personally bought them and put them in the refrigerator. All the kitchen utensils seem to have been used for over a month. Can you tell me how you did it? Bai Yi remained silent for a moment and gave a high-quality answer. I don't know. Aha. Mengzi didn't expect Bai Yi to say that. Is there anything else? Bai Yi asked back, if not, I'll continue playing my game. So, does Bai Yi Jun need an assistant? Xi Meng didn't continue to struggle, as it was a question destined to receive no response. Assistant. Are you a painter or a composer? Xi Meng smiled slightly and took out a small notebook from behind. Register as a first-level game designer. Bai Yi was somewhat surprised, but quickly realized that games in this world are a legitimate and subsidized entertainment industry, and it is reasonable for practitioners to have relevant qualifications. However, this has also led to some issues, namely the value of certificates. For example, Certified Public Accountant and Accounting Professional Qualification Certificate. The former undoubtedly has much higher gold content than the latter. However, Bai Yi currently does not understand the value of these certificates, nor is it clear whether there is a higher value of registration in this world. In my past life, my name was prestigious and required various exams, but in reality, it was not recognized by the state, or it was once recognized but abolished by the state, and certificates were only issued by associations or enterprises, which I have heard of. Wait a moment, give me 2 minutes. Bai Yi began to verify the authenticity of the certificate on site in front of Mengzi. Watching the slow loading progress bar, Bai Yi couldn't help but believe that this was the true official website. Even though software is highly developed in this world, whether it is used or not is still a different matter. After loading, Bai Yi began to check the application requirements and relevant superior certificates. This certificate can be taken at the age of 12. Bai Yi was a bit surprised, as if she was a little younger. But on second thought, it's not very outrageous either. After all, in my previous life, I was able to pass dance exams, piano exams, Go sections, and so on at around the age of 12 or 13. There is a game editor in this world, and with reasonable training and guidance, children can create various games, and the threshold is not very high. It's different from elementary school students who publish papers that are too professional and unclear to non-professionals in order to participate in various competitions. The kind of thing that can be seen as tricky at a glance is different. Of course, for most people, things that can be tested at the age of 12 may not be known even at the age of 20. Among those who know, there are also those who have taken the exam 4 or 5 times, but have not passed the exam even at the age of 10 or 20. The same goes for this world. For most people without special backgrounds or channels, the opportunity of the college entrance examination is greater than the uncertain future of art exam, physical exam, and computer game design exam. As for why doesn't Bai Yi know? The parents of the Bai family have always raised their children in a free range, and they do not put in any effort to plan their lives. If Bai Yi says he wants to take the exam, they will support and provide financial assistance, but they will not tell Bai Yi that he can take this exam, let alone ask him to participate in various competitions. Because they believe that the shortest shortcut in life is sometimes the slowest distance. After all, although the value of this certificate is not low, if you are not preparing to apply, it does not affect your ability to become a game designer day and night. Those well-known top-level game designers are theoretically equivalent to level 8 registered designers. But a portion of those who cross industries have never taken any exams. Simply put, for the game designer industry, awards are also more important than certifications. Or rather, achieving results and gaining player recognition is more useful than passing any assessment or obtaining any certificate. So, why don't you play the game yourself? I don't have as much pocket money as Bai Yi Jun. Okay. Although knowing that things were not that simple, Bai Yi chose to agree out of trust in Mengzi's face. You are despicable GIF, sorry for the trouble, let's talk when we encounter it. What Bai Yi needs now is always to take the first step from 0 to 1. Anyway, the worst thing is just to get your pocket money back to 0. The days ahead will be very long. Chapter 8. Driver's License Speed Pass. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's unbelievable, even though it's the first time, it seems like I've been practicing for 3 months. The coach touched the envelope and said, there happens to be an exam tomorrow afternoon. You can go there after the machine test in the morning. Transferring to a driving school requires a solid wait of 2 days, as it requires passing through the traffic management area. But there's no need to change campuses, especially if you haven't taken Subject 1 yet, it's easier to operate. As for why is it so positive? That's naturally because I paid during the day and night. Okay, see you later. Bai Yi didn't say much to this ordinary male coach. After getting off the car, leaving the driving school, Bai Yi turned around and entered the internet cafe. In Japan, staying overnight in an internet cafe is much more cost-effective than renting a house. No need for a large deposit, no need to pay for water and electricity, no need to worry about hygiene and cleaning, and there is also free air conditioning to blow. Some internet cafes even offer washing machines and shower rooms. And for most people who stay overnight in internet cafes, commuting to work rarely exceeds half an hour. In such a living environment, a house in the same location can be rented for at least 50.60000 yuan per month, and the living space may not be as large as a private room in an internet cafe. However, living in an internet cafe for a month is less than 6,000 yuan. This was also one of the housing choices that White Knight had originally planned. But now that I moved to Mengzi's house, there will be no related expenses. As for what Bai Yi came here for. Of course, I posted a video. Every point spent, Bai Yi strives to turn it into firewood for growth, providing Bai Yi with more points. Driving Test Speed Guide. Mainland Special Edition. The basic summary is: list and average prices of driving schools in different regions, subject of driving exams in different regions, limited by C1, price lists of hotels and short-term rental housing in different regions, data sourced from the internet, flight prices in the past 3 weeks, limited by July 3, recommended immigration for driving exams in different provinces, for reference only, coach's language response, with phone numbers from local traffic management offices attached. Recommended skills videos, not guaranteed to be the best, disclaimer, with phone numbers from local price bureaus attached. Most of the above data comes from the internet. If there is any discrepancy, please refer to the actual data. It takes about a month for a normal person to collect this information and organize it into a complete table, even for a professional team. For Baiyi, it only requires a few points to be paid, and the effect is relatively better. When it comes to team queries and organization, sometimes prices fluctuate due to the platform's intelligent recommendation mechanism, and some merchants with low ratings may not be able to find them. Although they often change their signs themselves. There are too many search terms and the regions crossed are too frequent, and it may even be judged as abnormal accounts, forcing the search frequency to be reduced. Crawls are the same, and even anti-crawling is more powerful. Therefore, even for review accounts, it is rare to conduct nationwide reviews. Even if most of the data only comes from online evaluations by merchants. Field evaluations, which are expensive activities, are rarely compared at the city level in a single video. So under normal circumstances, what is driven is more powerful than what is not. Baiyi is not afraid that this video will not be watched by curious people, but rather cares about how long this video can survive. As the saying goes, cutting off one's financial path is like killing one's parents. Once this public disclosure behavior involves product prices and quality, netizens from all over the world will actively participate, whether they truly understand or not. At that time, there will be various enthusiastic and professional brothers, as well as self-proclaimed professional brothers, who will come forward to speak up. Then many people who simply follow the crowd will go to the comments section of various platforms to charge for it. By the way, it's not just review videos like Baiyi, but also promotional videos that often feature the presence of enthusiastic older brothers. For example, the hot Dongshan barbecue and the Sichuan barbecue that was pushed back by their own people, or rather, it is the unfamiliar urban and other expensive tourist, holy sites. After the video became popular, various driving schools and hotels reported and removed it, and it was not surprising at all. Most likely in the name of infringement of trademark and reputation rights, because Baiyi publicly disclosed their publicly available price list on their own website, which is legally required to be disclosed. If the video can live long enough to bring enough returns to oneself, then Baiyi can consider becoming a mouth-strong king, and continuously launch various travel guides and shopping guides. Anyway, the account is really worthless, even if one batch is hung, just open another batch. If the video doesn't last long enough, there's no need to put too much energy into it. Occasionally, if you need some credit, just release a provincial or city-level video and earn some credit. After all, if we cannot change the environment, we can only adapt to it. After editing, release the video and then take a taxi home. When passing by the market, Baiyi bought groceries by the way. Unlike the male protagonists of the ancient fantasy immortal hero who all have the skill of grilling meat and cooking, most male protagonists in urban entertainment literature only have instant noodle-level cooking skills. There are not many strong women around Baiyi who can cook, and the specialty cuisine in Japan is too unique for Baiyi, so Baiyi chooses to cook and eat it herself. Baiyi June, what are you going to do at noon? Not long after Baiyi returned, Mengzi, who was carrying a briefcase, also returned. Do you have any dietary restrictions on fried rice with mushroom and beef? The credit points obtained by Baiyi from cooking are not low compared to the points he invests, because most home-cooked dishes do not require too much cooking skills. Basically, by investing at most 2 points in each meal, they can be cooked very well. After the cooked dishes are eaten, they are completely settled and there will be no further income. However, if you set up a stall or open a store, you can find Shuyuan at www.zhaoshuyuan.com and settle daily credit points based on brand value, daily revenue, customer feedback, and other factors. No, but can we replace the golden needle mushroom with tomatoes? Mengzi put away her briefcase and asked in front of the refrigerator. Can you please help me bring the tomatoes and orange juice from the refrigerator? Baiyi thought about her cooking experience in her mind and realized that she had also cooked this dish before, so she no longer refused. Orange juice. Do you want orange juice in this dish? Mengzi asked, somewhat puzzled. No, I drank the orange juice myself. And after the white night I ate it. During the process of dreaming, it did not affect Bai Ye's ability to solve his own portion. He did not want to wait for Mengzi, as his dishes might become cold. Women are very troublesome. Gif, Bai Ye Jun, can you give me a taste? Mengzi held a box of yogurt and couldn't help but crave as she watched Bai Ye eat it with relish. Okay, take another pair of chopsticks. Bai Ye took some time to stir up the ingredients in the pot, then continued eating and drinking. Bai Ye Jun, what is cooked in this pot? Mengzi couldn't help but swallow her saliva as she smelled the lingering aroma from the nearby stew pot. The brine used for braised beef is probably only available tomorrow. Bai Ye was a bit uncertain. The process of braising beef was a bit troublesome, and another thing was that he was afraid that after finishing the exam, he would not be able to see the beef in the pot. After all, there is a difficulty in the cooking process, which is to control oneself and not eat the already fragrant, semi-finished products. For chefs, the same applies to diners who are not stopped by chefs. Chapter 9. Game Finalization. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The studio has already been registered. Although none of us can be considered college students yet, our college entrance examination scores can also be considered as proof. In addition, since I am of Japanese nationality, I will still be counted as a college student entrepreneurship project. Mengzi took out a series of materials from her briefcase. Our registered capital is less than 500,000 yuan, and the initial capital only needs 10% of the registered capital, which is 50,000 yuan. It can be paid in installments within the next 3 years. At the same time, during our school years, we are exempt from corporate income tax. Then, due to the support policies in the gaming industry, the studio was also exempt from corporate income tax in the first year after we graduated, and the corporate income tax was halved in the second year. At the same time, you can go to relevant departments to inquire about talent and labor supply and demand information for free, and publish recruitment advertisements for free. You can enjoy certain fee reductions in talent markets or labor exchange activities. We don't really need other loan matters, training and benefits at the moment. This is the official seal, so you don't need to worry about tax receipts and other things. Mengzi roughly told Bai Ye about the things he needs to know in the Daydream studio and how to get his official seal, so he doesn't need to worry too much about other things. Finance and cashier cannot be done alone, can they? Bai Ye held the official seal and asked Mengzi for the name of the studio he had chosen. Should I say it's a secret joy? After all, Mengzi is really beautiful, and Bai Ye is not a gentleman. The cashier, of course, was named by Sister Yu, which happened to prevent her from looking for an internship unit again. Mengzi did not explain why the name was given, but continued, however, if we don't have a project for a long time, the studio will also be invited by the business to have tea. The game plan is already available. Here is the design proposal. The first game chosen by Bai Ye was naturally Plants vs. Zombies. A new studio needs fame and reputation in order to bring significant credit points to Bai Ye. With a large number of points, Bai Ye can achieve snowball or even avalanche-like growth. As the first game was the opening game and the storefront of the studio for a considerable period of time, Bai Ye naturally chose a classic game. Plants vs. Zombies may seem simple, but it is a long-lasting and very durable game. As a casual game, the various resources required for development will not exceed the economic limit of White Knight. Plants vs. Zombies. Mengzi looked at the cover of the cartoon style and was somewhat surprised by how Bai Ye connected the two. In Bai Ye's design book for Mengzi, it mainly describes interface layout, combat system, level settings, plant types, zombie types, special gameplay. The soul of games is always the gameplay. Even if the graphics change from mosaic to 3D, no one will play games that are not fun. The gameplay of PvZ has undoubtedly been tested by people around the world for decades in their past lives. Therefore, in the design of game levels, plants, zombies, and other mechanisms, White Knight does not require any additional thinking. Therefore, he did not spend a lot of space describing the gameplay of the game in the design book, but instead drew a set of simple strokes. Pushcart flower bean _ zombie trolley flower bean _ stiff equals trophy _ trolley equals trophy zombie zombie equals green font. In terms of transforming gameplay into design books, he also directly applied templates. After all, Baiyi is not so much about designing a new game as describing the functionality of an existing game. For game design professionals, if these things written by Baiyi are used as course assignments, they need to add various principles and analyses in order to be submitted. Then, there are some cost estimates, which are the feasibility analysis that normal analysis needs to do. There is no need to say much about the technical aspect. In terms of developing 2D games, even a third-rate free game editor is no less than the top-of-the-line game engine in previous lives. Art, music and other resources can also rely on AI and systems to transport works from the memory of Baiyi. The economic cost is not high either. If Baiyi estimates it himself, it only takes about 10,000 yuan to fully realize all the levels of the first-generation adventure mode. You can complete the entire game in 13 to 15 days. And most of the expenses are still to save time, used to purchase template code for some fees, and all other game resources are prepared to be rubbed by hand day and night. The 15-day construction period is still due to the system's inability to add points to things outside of day and night, and the operations that should be carried out in reality still need to be done by day and night themselves. Otherwise, click on a powerful editor and gamify the design documents directly, and you can even turn Iron Man into Iron Man by day and night. Have you been doing this all these days? Mengzi was a bit surprised, but still took the plan book and started reading it. At first, she didn't have much expectations for Baiyi's plan. She passed the computer-based exam in one go, but only 1 or 2 out of 10 of the training classes she taught were able to reach the passing line, and the number of people who pass each year is even rarer. Yes, this sister also works as a part-time teacher at a training institution. The certificate she held in her hand was not just the first level one shown to Baiyi, but the highest one was a professional level 6. And her work, of course, is her love to play Krypton mobile game. Every year, a large number of cryptocurrency games and their companies collapse, and at the same time, more companies and games emerge every year. Zhaozuiyuan.com Mengzi relied on them and quietly became an unknown level 6 game designer, possessing a small unknown treasure trove. Therefore, having seen various ghosts and gods, Mengzi knows that it is not a simple task for newcomers to clearly explain what kind of game they want to play in the plan book. There are even fewer games with real commercial value. Similar to entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship projects for college students, it seems pretty good, but the workload doesn't seem to be low. With continuous reading, Mengzi's movements gradually slowed down. The plan given by Baiyi gives Mengzi a feeling of discomfort. It was as if Baiyi had already created a finished product in his mind, and then he took it out, but because he was not a professional designer, he forced it into the template of the game design book. From the moment he first entered the game, the crazy words spoken by Dave, to planting the first plant, defeating the first zombie, and then continuously opening new levels, unlocking new plants, and defeating new bosses later on. Then there are various plants, smiling cannon fodder sunflowers, pea shooters as attacking units, angry muggles on their faces, 25-year-old good brother potato thunder, and big mouthed flowers with teeth all over them. Next are various zombies, including regular zombies, roadblock zombies, pole vault zombies, bucket zombies, rugby zombies, Dance King zombies, especially various interface diagrams, as well as the number of zombies in each level, which plants to unlock in the first level, and which special modes to unlock in the first level, etc. It makes Mengzi feel like Bai Yi has played this game more than once. But as a seasoned gamer and non-renowned professional game designer, Mengzi firmly believes that this game has never been created by anyone else, and there are no similar games. Chapter 10. Consensus. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bai Yi Jun, your design proposal is a bit chaotic. The high level of completion in the design of the White Knight game is surprising, but Mengzi also found that White Knight's numerical design cannot be said to be unsatisfactory, it can only be said to be completely clueless. In Bai Yi's design book, there are many various graphical interfaces, but data tables are few and far between. Although there are still some basic items available, such as the sunlight, health, firing rate, and planting cooldown of P shooter. P's range, basic damage, and increase in flame stakes. And roughly how many zombies are spawned in each level, and which level unlocks which new plants. However, the number of zombies in a level, as well as the attack power of P's, is a fixed value without any cause or effect or numerical analysis. Moreover, there are basically no other requirements analysis, market analysis, feasibility analysis, etc. There is no specific development cost estimate involved. Although there is some redundancy in the demand analysis and other aspects regarding the proposal of the boss for producing Confession Night. However, in Mengzi's view, Bai Yi is a sign that extra classes are needed. Not considering these aspects can lead to significant losses in the future. Not everyone is like Osamu Tezuka, one person can support a company. If it's the current plan, then I don't think it's enough to pass the computer-based exam, let alone as a commercial project. Unless all numerical aspects are refactored, I choose to reserve my opinion on this project. Mengzi thinks that the potential of this game is good, but to fully unleash its potential, adjustments are also necessary. So in terms of numerical values, let's leave it to Mengzi. Bai Yi was already a half-outsider in this regard, so he didn't think that the other party was someone who looked down on divine works and had no vision because of Mengzi's words. Mengzi just looks down on Bai Yi's poor numerical ability, which has nothing to do with the game itself. In fact, Bai Yi's numerical ability is indeed very poor, and numerical values are not his own job. Therefore, Bai Yi placed the burden on Mengzi without any resentment. Bai Yi ponders, at least he is also a professional, no matter how bad it is, he is more professional than himself. If it really doesn't work, can we still open the hang? As for how does the science class do it? This world is rich in computing resources due to the overdevelopment of computers, and even some early related materials such as deduction sand tables and missile interception systems have been made public. As a result, games such as shooting and tower defense have accumulated a plethora of computing models. This means that when designers design levels, they often input data from both the enemy and ourselves, and then determine a passing threshold. Of course, different game mechanisms require different input data. In PvZ, a range value should be calculated based on the plant's attack power, health, range, attack interval, attack range, preparation time, potato drilling, cooldown time, card cooldown, resource output speed, sun output, price, sun consumption, and other conditions. Then, within this range, the number and types of hostile zombies should be arranged. As long as the numerical value is outrageous, it can ensure that the plants unlocked in the early stage are not optional, while also making players feel that the difficulty of the level is constantly increasing. And with a limited range, even if the range is a bit blurry, it won't let most ordinary players get stuck in a certain level. Our workload is not small. It's okay, I have confidence. Mengzi thinks that the workload of Bai Yi will be more, partly because making this game is not easy, but more importantly, because of the complex post-testing work. In the past life, the game Plants vs. Zombies was created by a designer, an artist, a musician, and a programmer who spent 3 years creating it. The vast majority of this time is spent constantly changing design schemes and optimizing user experience, constantly polishing, in order to create such a high-quality game. However, as a cute newcomer, Bai clearly doesn't understand what Mengzi finds troublesome, and only has ample to blind confidence in the highly successful zombie in his past life. After seeing that Mengzi did not object, he said to Mengzi, "And the workload is not too much, after all, we don't have a lot of time." "That's right." Mengzi felt that Bai was talking about 4 years in college, during which he launched several preemptive experiences, internal tests, and trial games, which were completely sufficient for the healthy operation of the studio. Bai is thinking about the time in July, because August was originally scheduled for a trip. As expected, shortly after Bai's recommended video was released, some people saw it. Half an hour later, someone started forwarding. And during this process, someone quickly forwarded some screenshots of the form separately, the most of which was driving test immigration. After all, the price differences in different regions have always been a long-standing topic. Overseas and mainland, south and north, first and 13th line subsequently, enthusiastic netizens added corresponding website links after the form, making it easier for people to verify on their own. After just 3 hours, someone began to create a second creation based on the video clips of Bai. Then, in the comments section of these videos, there are various masters and bigwigs showing off their driver's licenses and invoices. Yes, some people even start to compare who spends more money. At the same time, there are also people from various regions who are starting to make trouble in the comments section, distorting the issue of driving exams towards regional issues, and then various regions with long-standing grievances also start to argue. Amidst the commotion, we talked about the differences in score lines, airports, subways, food, salaries, and more, and began to discuss the ginseng rooster. After another 3 hours, someone noticed the traffic password and started the manuscript editing work at the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Cleverly, only extract data from some provinces and cities, or explain the situation of some hotels and driving schools, and also incorporate some outdated information as historical data for comparison. At the same time, some majors, in order to leave some space, not only hide the name and trademark of the driving school, but only display it in the form of place name plus serial number, and also specifically indicate the data source, i.e., the video of the day and night. As a large number of marketing accounts for consumables, it's about changing the AI voice, using some synonyms, changing the header, deleting some content, dismembering and segmenting, reducing the repetition rate of AI review to below 50%, and then starting with something that has been very popular recently. I'm also curious, what do you think? Undoubtedly, the video of Bai has become popular, and the data in the video has also become popular. Bai himself. That's not necessarily true. He didn't appear in front of the camera a few times, and other people's videos wouldn't highlight him as an outsider. Although there will still be people with intentions who will find him as the culprit in the end, it will probably take 1 or 2 more days to trace back to his account. I just don't know if it's faster for merchants or for the masses. Although the video may not escape the ending of being taken down in the end, it is obvious that recognizing the number of people on White Knight, the popularity of White Knight's account, and the traffic gained in the end will not be the same thing. Although Bai is looking forward to this, he is not in a hurry. On the one hand, he has a driving test tomorrow, and on the other hand, there is still a lot of work waiting for him to handle and improve Zhi. So after preparing for the afternoon exam, Bai will take a look at the back end and decide whether to continue updating the recommended series based on his earnings, points and money.